Welcome, Facebook friends. I'm Marc David, founder of the Institute for the Psychology of Eating. I am here today to be in a conversation about my life as an eating psychology coach, and I'm here with Gerda Bruwer. Welcome, Gerda.
Thank you, Marc. Glad to be here.
And we are speaking to each other from a great distance. I'm here in Boulder, Colorado, and you are in Stellenbosch, South Africa.
South Africa. There we go.
How amazing is that?
Yes, yes. In the cyberspace, anything is possible.
This is so true. So let me ask you a question. What in the universe possessed you? I believe you graduated 2015. What possessed you? Here you are, great distance from the United States to sign up for this online training. How did that happen for you?
Absolutely. It was really a lifetime of searching and looking for answers because of my own weight struggles and my own struggles with body weight and food. It pretty much started in my late teens, and I started gaining some weight, and my weight journey would go to as much as over 30 kilograms, which is like over 70 pounds. And it would fluctuate up and down and up and down. And I always thought that nutrition would be my way out. Nutrition would, get me out of this mess. So I really, really studied nutrition. I was always ahead of the game. It was like a little personal hobby of mine. I always knew nutrition on the top of my fingertips. And yet the more you're busy with nutrition, and of course nutrition changes all the time, it was just you're always busy with it. And it never got resolved. So because it never got resolved, there was always this struggle between fighting food and loving and over-loving food. So the behavioral issues, the bulimic disorders, all the things that go with it. And, I got to a point in my life where I thought I grew up as the daughter of a psychologist, and my father did his doctorate on the mind. So I was always very fascinated with how the mind works. I got to a point in my life where I studied the mind and the subconscious mind, and I started seeing a little bit of, changes in me, but it didn't resolve it. It was still not resolved. There was still some weight. And I was actually away at the time, and I happened to, you were on one of these live, webinars somewhere in the world, and I actually missed your talk. But I saw your little bio, and something in me just resonated with, my goodness, go and look at this. And in fact, I was late. I was already sort of past the sign-up date, and I begged the Institute, please, can you accept me? I'm from South Africa, and I would love to start now. And that was the beginning of 2015. So that was how how I got to you. And when I signed up, I had no idea what I was in for. I just knew that there was a missing part for me, and I intuitively felt this is it. And, throughout that whole year, so much became clear for me. So much got resolved within me and within my psyche and within my soul. Because your training really covers base. It is truly a platform that covers everything from where you can add to or, focus more later on in your work. But for me, it really covered bases that I've not touched before. So it was a huge year for me. And I couldn't stop talking about it. Everybody I was talking to, I was like bubbling over from, I've just learned this, and this is so amazing. And because it made sense. It just all started to make sense. And I started to connect the dots and where pieces were still missing. So it was mainly for myself at that stage. I didn't so much think of it as becoming a practitioner, but it was really to finally solve my own weight problem.
Mm-hmm. So where are you today with it? How do you feel about the results for you personally? Have you seeped into your professional life at all? Tell us.
Totally. Prior to this, I started working in the healing profession, around neuroscience and the mind and the subconscious mind. So after this, I really felt that I could go out there and just focus on this. That my focus is women especially, and body and weight and food, because it's women who have struggled most. So when I started, I actually, because years ago, I was in the corporate world for much of my life. So especially throughout last year, I coached corporate groups, I worked with private groups, I will sometimes collaborate with somebody and do a workshop, jointly. Somebody else will cover something else in the healing aspect, and I do this part on the eating psychology and body, mind, nutrition. But it very quickly became, I love working with people one-on-one. I love working with women face-to-face. I also spend, at least 90 minutes in a session, and really, I don't know, just to me, that was really connecting soul to soul. And I've learned to really just trust my intuition to where it goes, because everybody is different. Everybody's got a different story and a different, background and trauma or fear or whatever happened or went wrong for them. But I've learned to go with, but if it wasn't for your training, that's what I wanted to say. It's one thing to have battled with something your whole life and to figure out a lot of things, and you can help people, but to really help people, you need to have a solid platform where you have so many tools. Mm-hmm. That you always know, it's like a peace of mind that there's tools, there's so many tools, and there's always something that is relevant to that specific person, because everybody is different. Every person is different. Every person I work with, it's sort of, I will start somewhere else for most of them. It is really, but you have to have the tools. If you didn't have that, you can't do it.
Okay. So question, since you've been seeing clients, something you've learned on the job that's been unexpected and positive.
Okay. Unexpected, for instance, was somehow I attracted quite a few mothers and daughters. Mm-hmm. Mother and daughter would come and see me, and the mother would sort of feel her daughter's got a weight problem, and the daughter's still quite young, at quite a young age, and the mother's very health conscious, and what can we do? For some reason, I attracted quite a few of that. And initially I was a bit apprehensive, because it's one thing to work with one person and but now you have two people, it's two different stories. There's a correlation as well. They feed into each other. There's that part, but there's also two people with different expectations. And it was that was something I thought, well, life is sending this to me for a reason. Mm-hmm. So let me just get going with it. But it was uncomfortable at first, and I just want to tell you something in closing on that. It's very recently my own mother passed away. And at the time, you're so busy with everything that you've got to do and sort out. And when I, a few weeks later, got to be on my own, some of my old binging behaviors came back. And I knew that that's the beauty about once you've gone this far down the path and you've learned all these tools. I didn't panic. Normally the old me would have panicked. Oh my goodness, this has come back, whatever. It didn't. I didn't panic. I knew it was just an old coping, mechanism that my survival brain was saying, listen, this pain is so severe. This is sort of, it's not as painful. And after a few days of this, I just realized, let me just sit with this for a few days. I just need to go into that pain. And it was very painful. But the amazing thing when you do that is that it's a few days and it's over. You've really gone there and visited it. But in that whole time prior to that, I never panicked. Whereas, the old me would have panicked. You would start fearing, oh, this has come back. Oh my goodness, I'm picking up weight. None of that happened to me. None of that. And I'm fine now. I just had to go to that place. Yes.
Sure. I think so many people have the expectation that I have to be perfect. I have to never overeat again, or never binge eat, or never emotionally eat. And in my experience, one could have a perfectly healthy relationship with food. And there's times when we binge, and there's times when we overeat, and there's times when we binge eat. You know, you could have a great relationship with life, and there's times when we're happy and times when we're not.
And times when it's pain. Yes, totally. That is so true. Sometimes when I do, I'm sometimes invited to be a speaker, and it's normally in front of women's groups. And then when I stand there and I tell my story, that people say, no, I can't believe that you once had, like, you know, over 70 pounds, you know, of weight. It doesn't look like it. And then I always say to them, you know, I stand in front of you, not being perfect, not at all. It's a life journey, but you've learned tools. And at least now when you've got the tools, like when something props up, like a little bit of binging came back for me, I didn't panic because I knew there was something I needed to go and do and delve into my psyche. And I did that. It took a few days, but I got there, and that's it. It stopped. Yeah.
You know, talking about mothers and daughters, or parents and children, it really has, when I first noticed this or started believing this, it really impacted me how when we as parents do our own work on self, when it comes to our relationship with our body, when it comes to our relationship with food, when it comes to anything that we have to just course correct in ourselves, our kids really have less work to do in that department. You know, we always, parents are often trying to fix their kids. You know, back when I first started practicing, I would have mothers, dads, they would drop their kids off and say, yeah, fix my kid. He's doing this, she's doing that, she's overeating, she's binging. And I'm thinking, no, not exactly. When the parents do the work, the kids start to break through.
That is so true. That is so true. Yeah, absolutely. And but yeah, especially with mother and daughter, it's a very fine little line. Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, it works for father and son as well. It looks different. It feels different. You know, I've got a 24-year-old son, and I notice the places where he has challenges in life are the same places where I still need to clean up my act. You know, where I still have work to do. The places that I've done well in, he tends to do well in.
Yeah. That is so true. The mirror effect.
So when you see clients, how do they find you? How do they track you down? Where do they learn about you?
Well, you know, first of all, being here in the Cape, there are thousands of psychologists. There are many, but there is nobody that focuses on this around body, food, and weight like I do. So initially, I just started working through my website. I had my website up and running, and I would see, and people, you know, would find out about me or hear about me, or I have a habit of when I talk to somebody, I give them a card. That's what I do. But normally women are so fascinated by this topic. It's an easy topic to talk about. And you always have an audience. So it's sort of word of mouth. And then, you know, somebody heard from somebody else, or that's sort of how it developed. And then one thing I also did last year, I haven't had a chance to do it this year, was I worked with a couple of companies, and also with women in small little groups over 8 weeks. So I would really sort of, you know, we would work on something, and everybody would get a chance to practice it for that week, and then we would, you know, do the next. So I sort of played around with a lot of things, different parts of doing the work. I think the part, I must say, when I'm standing in front of a group of people, I come alive. Maybe it's part of my teaching, you know, personality or, the corporate background I have. I love that part, but working one-on-one to me is always, my goodness, I learn so much. Every single client one-on-one is a revelation.
Yeah.
There's always something for me as well. That's what is so fascinating about this. And you were the one who taught me, it's not called a practice for nothing. It's this beautiful opportunity to practice and how I always, this learning goes back, because it's your soul connecting with another soul. So it goes back and forth. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So something you learned in the training that really just stood out for you, made a difference for you personally in your life?
I think, Mark, again, going, more towards the soul stuff, the deeper stuff. I know one thing that you did in training was talking about the deeper stuff, the transfer of energy. When something can be happening to somebody else in a household or a parent, but you can pick it up because you want to help carry the load. That is, for instance, was the story of my weight issues. I actually wanted to help carry the load of my mom and all of my mom's weight problem, and that was all unconscious. It was totally unconscious, and it was in your training that little bit unraveled for me, which was really a big thing to discover. Yeah.
Yeah.
So often we don't even have that problem ourselves. We have just unconsciously picked it up and made it our own. Yeah.
Yeah. I for those people tuning in right now, I like to say that for so many of us, we think that, I have cancer, or I have heart disease, or I have extra weight, or I have overeating. Yeah. And it's true. It might live in me. Yeah. But oftentimes it's connected to our environment. It's connected to our relationship or our family. And everyone is affected. And oftentimes we're affected by everyone. And we can carry symptoms for other people. It's just what we do as humans, I think. It's not a bad thing.
Absolutely. And that we feed off the environment from a very small, even before we are born, right throughout life. And it's a fundamental part of life, and yet it is ignored but it is so, feeding off my environment is also feeding off the toxins in my environment. If there's too much of that, I could either, there could be a disease, or I have some weight problems, but it is actually, there's not anything really in my psyche. I'm just so full of toxins from my environment that it is clouding my vision, and it is, it's my body is struggling. Mm. Yeah. The environment is huge. Yeah.
And it sounds like the people in South Africa and the area you're in, people are receptive to this kind of work and this kind of approach in general that you're presenting out there.
Yeah, yeah. I'm very fortunate that whenever I work with the client as well, it's at the end of it, wherever we went, wherever we had to go for them. At the end, they always say, gosh, this makes so much sense. It's like, those are the words I always hear at the end. And then I always say to them, yeah, because your soul knows. Your soul knows. When you pick up the truth, it's So yes, I think, especially in this part of South Africa, there are definitely more people that are open to, it is really a body, mind, spirit connection, and I cannot separate it. It all works together. Yeah.
It really does. And not only does it work together, but when we work together in that way, when we look at somebody's eating concerns and their eating challenges from that perspective, we bring in the nutrition, but yes, we can also bring in the emotions, and yes, we can also bring in that soul component. The work becomes so much more juicy. It becomes more fun, and it becomes more powerful.
That's the thing. That is always, it still astonishes me how often it's really in one or two sessions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a person can make that breakthrough, and then and then when I connect with them later on, a few months down the line, they say, well, they're fine. The weight is slowly coming off naturally. It is just, sometimes it's really just, when you're ready, you know, you hear what you need to hear, and it makes sense. Because unfortunately, in the world at large, in the rest of South Africa as well, is all still just focused on, it's the weight problem. It is, how am I going to fix the weight problem? And it's just got to be through diet. I just have to follow a diet. In the meantime, we got into this mess because of diets, but that's another story. So, it takes, I always say to clients as well, so you first of all, I want to thank you, because you're already thinking outside of the, you know, and you're ahead of the game, because it's not not following a diet. And, I sometimes, you know, because I know quite a bit about nutrition, I often hear myself say, I don't know if nutrition or my knowledge of nutrition is a blessing or a curse. Because when you know that much, you can dive in with nutrition, but you're going to kill it. And when you're just focused on nutrition, you're going to be busy with nutrition the whole time. You know, you're not, whereas nutrition I see as tweaks at the end. It is really when all the self body-mind connection work is being done, then the nutritional tweaks come at the end. It is seldom that I've had a client where it was really just one session and they just needed a few nutritional tweaks. That has happened, but that is seldom. Yeah. So yeah, one has to be careful not to just dive in with nutrition, especially if you know quite a bit about it. It is really for tweaking later on. Yeah.
Well, Gerda, congratulations on taking this work and using it in such a good way, using it for you, using it for the people around you, and really help elevating people. You know, at the end of the day, that's what this is all about. It's not losing a few pounds or many pounds. Yeah, you know, that's great, and that's a part of the work, but it's really helping each other find ourselves and find our true self, which also means our true body, our true weight. It's all connected. You know, I think when we find our true self, we have the opportunity to finally find our true metabolism. I've really seen that work. So good for you for bringing this work out into the world. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Marc. There's something that just made me think of, something in your training, and you know, the whole where you put the scale away, and now I was never completely fixated with the scale, but the scale did dictate whether I was fat or thin. And in your training, there was a point where I thought, okay, I'm going to do it now. I will do it, and I will put the scale away. And it has been such an interesting journey, because once I have forgotten about the scale, the last bit of weight really just started coming down. And to this day, I don't know what I weigh. I have no desire to get on a scale. It's a life of freedom. And, you know, afterwards, I also thought, you know, this fixation we have on scales and numbers, and we are not eating food anymore. We're just eating nutrients, you know. It's either a carb or a fat or a protein, or we're forever counting something. It's actually, you know, we're coming from a place where we are not trusting our bodies, and our bodies want to heal, and weight loss is a form of healing. So by being fixated on all of that all the time, you keep sending out a message that I don't trust my body to heal, to do this. And that was a big sort of revelation for me, because really when I finally packed the scale away, it was the last few, I sort of went under a weight that I've never been in my whole life. And it just happened naturally. And that is amazing. And that is so free. I mean, it frees you from that whole struggle.
Yeah, I love that. Good for you.
Yeah.
How do people find you? What's your website?
My website is under my name, so GerdaBruwer.com. And my phone number, all my contact details are on there. I also do Skype sessions sometimes. Most of the time I work with people one-on-one. And I do talks and workshops. And so, yes, it is, I'm out there if people can connect with me.
Yay. Thank you so much for this conversation. I so appreciate it. And I'm so glad that we got to connect, Ms. Gerda.
Me too. Me too. And Mark, thank you, thank you, thank you. It was, it's a few years ago, and I'm doing the training through the Institute was one of the best. I've studied a lot of things in my life, but it was one of the best things I did. And I want to thank you because you connected a lot of missing dots for me in my journey, to finally complete this picture. And put something to rest that bugged me my whole life. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And anyone tuning in, if you're interested in the training, we're in full swing for enrollment for our next session, which starts in, a month and a half or so. So reach out to us at info@psychologyofeating.com. We're happy to set you up with an enrollment advisor over the phone. We'll answer your questions by email, info@psychologyofeating.com. Once again, Ms. Gerda Bruwer, thank you so much. You take care and God bless.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye-bye.